Today we'll start a new chapter, that is theory of failure. So in this chapter, we will study what are the causes of failure in very brief, and then these are the various theories of failure: maximum principal stress theory, maximum principal strain theory, maximum strain energy theory, maximum shear stress theory, distortion energy theory, and we'll also uh, see how these theories can be represented graphically, and the comparison of each of these theories, where in which areas, in which applications they are used. So we'll have our two lectures. So in the lecture one, we'll present some content today, and other content in the lecture two. So first of all, strength of material, as we are talking. So what is the strength? Strength is a property or the characteristics of a mechanical element or the component which we are using. So it depends upon the geometry, the material quality, material properties, and loading condition. So what is a static load first? It's a stationary load which is applied gradually and having an unchanging magnitude and direction. So it can be produced because of axial tension, or we can say, rather I should say, the statical or a static load will cause a axial tension, a compression, a shear load, a bending load, a torsion load, because these all are different type of the distortion which we have uh, studied, or there will be a combination of one or two or all of the distortion at a time. So it depends upon the loading condition in the application, different application. Now, what is a failure? It is a permanent distortion. So that means the part will not function properly because of the failure. So that means the reliability of the component will be disgraded or downgraded. So a part is separated into two or more pieces. So under any combination of the load which we have seen just now, there is always a combination of normal and shear stress in the material. This is quite common. Okay. So generally the mechanical component fail because of the exceeding limit of the applied stress which a material permits. So as we know, every material has got a ultimate strength, and then we have seen yield strength, and then we allow some permissible strength. So when the applied stress exceeds these values, so the component is bound to fail. So there are two kind of the material we know. One is the ductile material and another is the brittle material. So ductile material deforms significantly before fracturing. Okay, so it gives a indication that the material is going to fracture. It is measured by the percentage elongation at the fracture point. If the material is having the percentage of elongation more than 5%, then the material, the failure is considered to be ductile. Now, the limiting strength of the ductile material is the stress at the yield point. Okay, so stress at the yield point. We don't go up to the ultimate stress, that is the maximum stress material can take, but we design a component uh, taking into account the yield point. So a brittle material eats very little before fracturing. Okay, so there is no clear-cut indication. The yield strength is approximately same as the ultimate strength in the tension. The ultimate strength in compression is much larger than ultimate strength in compression. The limiting strength of the brittle material is the ultimate strength because it gives a very small indication. So we take that the limiting strength is equal to the ultimate stress. Now you see these are the two diagrams. So this is for the brittle one and this is for the ductile one. So this we have studied in detail so many times. So you see the ultimate limit is very equal to the yield point. So failure the starts from here and here the fracture occurs. Okay. So here you see it is much before the ultimate stress. So that means it gives a indication that material is going to fail. Okay. So these all you know, this is elastic range, that the plastic range. So strain versus the stress is a plot. So in the case of the engineering stress strain curve, we take this shape, and in the case of the true stress, we take this shape. Now another important term is the factor of safety. So sometimes we use the term FOS and sometimes FS also. So it is the ratio of the failure stress to the allowable stress, or the failure load divided by the working load. So allowable stress is that stress value which is used in design to determine the dimension of the component. So this is important, the dimension of the component. So whenever we are designing, okay, so we have to fix some dimension of the component so that it can be fabricated. So it is considered as a stretch which do not reach or exceed the limiting stress under the normal operating condition. Okay, so that means we design a component which is much below the ultimate stress. So that means we always try to design a component so that it is safe. The failure occurs only after indication of the failure is there on the component. So for the ductile material, the allowable stress is the yield stress upon the factor of safety. And for the brittle material, it is again uh, allowable stress, ultimate stress is equal to, but in this case, the factor of safety is much larger than 1. Okay, in this case, because we have seen earlier in this graph, so yield stress is much far away from the ultimate stress. But in the case of the brittle material, it is quite close. So that's why we have to take the bigger factor of safety. Now, theory of failures. So what are the theory of failures? So theory of failures are those theories which help us to determine the safe dimension of a machine component when it is subjected to a combined stress due to the various loads acting on it during its functionality. Suppose a gearbox is there, so the life of gearbox is quite large. Okay, so it may be undergoing the different kind of the loads during its life. So during the fluctuation, so the failure will not occur over the night. So it will be gradual. Okay, so such components gradually becomes weak and they fails. So we need a theory in order to determine the exact or a very near value of the stress to design the component. Some of the example of such components are, you see, the IC engine crankshaft. So crankshaft is a shaft, it keeps on working continuously when the vehicle is running. So this is the failure is gradual over a period of time. Similarly, the shaft used in the power transmission, spindle of a screw jaw because it bears the load. The bolted and the welding joints which are used under the eccentric loading, sealing fan rod. So these are some of the very interesting example, and not all. There can be much more different type of example in the real life situation. So theory of failure are employed in design of a machine component due to the unavailability of the failure stresses under the combined loading condition, because it is difficult to assess because of the complex loading condition in the case of the combined loading. So we have to apply the different theories according to the material and the application. The theory of failure plays a key role in establishing the relationship between the stress induced because of the load under the combining loading condition and the properties obtained from the tension test. So ultimate tensile strength, that is S ultimate, or sometimes we also use the symbol sigma ut. Okay. Similarly, for the case of the yield strength, we use the symbol SYT, or it may be sigma YT. Okay. The prediction failure in the members which are subjected to uniaxial stress is both simple and straightforward, because it is easier. We can use the formula and we can calculate. But predicting the failure stress uh, in those members which are either subjected to the biaxial or triaxial stresses is much more complicated. So a large number of the different theories have been formulated, and the principal theory of failure for a material which is subjected to biaxial stresses are as follows. So their different names are there. So these are the common names which are these theories were envisaged by these people. So sometimes they are known by their name also. So maximum principal or the normal stress theory, we call it as a Rankine theory. So it was envisaged by the Rankine. Second theory is the maximum shear stress theory. So we also, in short, say the principal stress theory. We say this as maximum stress theory, MSS, maximum shear stress theory. Okay. Then maximum principal strain theory. So principal strain theory. So we also sometimes denote it with PSTM. Maximum strain energy theory. Maximum strain energy theory. And the last is maximum distortion energy theory, D. So we will, out of these theories, some of the theories are applied to the ductile material and some to the brittle material, and few theories are for a combination. So we will go into the detail of these theories one by one, and then we will try to solve some numerical also for each theory, and I'll be giving you the tutorial sheets also, so you can practice those numericals. So first we will discuss the theories which are there for the ductile material. So maximum shear stress theory, also known as the Gassett's theory. According to this theory, the failure of the yielding of the material component subjected to biaxial or triaxial stresses occurs when the maximum shear stress at any point in the component becomes equal to the shear stress at yield point. This is important in a simple tension test. So mathematically, we can represent it like this. The maximum shear stress, that is tau max, is equal to the shear stress at the yield point divided by the factor of safety. Fs is the factor of safety. So MS is the maximum shear stress in an axial stress system. Tau yt is the shear stress at the yield point from the simple test, and factor of safety Fs. So since tau yt is equal to 0.5 of sigma yt, that is the maximum this one. So we take that tau max is equal to sigma yt upon 2, because we have put this tau yt is equal to 0.5, or you can write it here as sigma yt divided by 0.5. Okay, so it is 2. So for the general state of stress, the principal stresses are sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3, where sigma is greater than sigma 2 and sigma 3. So the maximum shear stress, we know that it is half the difference of maximum principal stress and the minimum principal stress. So for general state of stress, the maximum shear stress theory predicts the yielding when tau max is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 2, 3 upon 2, this becomes greater equal to sigma yt, or sigma 1 minus sigma 3 in case of the biaxial stress. Okay, so it is greater equal to sigma y. So assuming sigma A is greater than sigma B, these are the three cases which can be there. Okay, so case 1, if we discuss, the sigma 1 is greater than sigma B and sigma 3 is 0. For this case, sigma 1 is equal to sigma A and sigma 3 is 0. So it reduces to the yielding condition of sigma A is greater than, because this is the maximum, so it is greater equal to sigma y. Second case, we take the second stress as 0 and sigma 1 is equal to sigma A and sigma 3 is equal to sigma B. So in that case, it will become sigma A minus sigma B is equal to sigma y. Okay. And in the third case, we take sigma 1 is equal to 0. So sigma 1 is 0. So sigma A is equal to sigma B. So sigma B is greater. So sigma B is less equal to minus sigma y. Or we can say sigma B is greater equal to sigma y. Okay. So this is these are the three cases. So if we have to draw these cases graphically, so maximum shear stress theory yields the envelopes of the three plane stresses. So you see, this is pertaining to the case 1 which we have discussed. This is pertaining to the case 2 and this is pertaining to the case 3. And if we, so this is a triangle, this is a this is a square, this is a square, sigma sy here, and similarly on the minus side this, minus side this. So if we join this, we envelop this, so this becomes the case 2. So maximum shear stress theory yields the envelope for the plane stress where sigma A and the sigma B are two non-zero principal stresses. Okay, so any point which is lying in this envelope is considered to be the safest point for designing that component. So this is the maximum shear stress theory. I think it is clear. So let us solve, or we can infer from this that maximum shear stress theory or maximum principal stress theory will give the same result for the ductile material under the uniaxial state of stress and the biaxial state of stress when the principal stresses are like in nature. Okay, because we have taken all positive. MMSC is not suitable under the hydrostatic stress condition. This theory is suitable for the ductile material and gives oversafe design, that is a safe and uneconomical design, because if you are designing uh, oversafe, then it becomes uneconomical. It is like this. Suppose you are designing a shaft. Okay. Suppose you are designing a shaft, and the shaft looks like this, and shaft looks like this. Just a minute. That was a wrong drawing, no? So shaft looks like this. Now suppose the diameter we have calculated here phi as say 40 millimeter. Okay? But we are designing and we are making it 50. This theory gives the 50. So that means our shaft will be oversafe. Why uneconomical? Because it will be costly. The diameter is more. So that's why we have to choose the design consideration accordingly. So for getting this, let us solve this numerical. One numerical is there. The load on the bolt consists of an axial pull of 10 kilonewton together with a transfer shear force. Okay, so there is the axial pull and there is a transfer shear force. Find the diameter of the bolt which is required according to the maximum shear stress theory. Take the permissible tensile stress at the elastic limit is so much. Okay, so how to solve this? So let me. So what is given here? Given the load, say P1, and it is given in tension. So it is given how much? 10 kilonewton. Okay. And shear load, that is PS, it is given as 5 kilonewton. So the tensile in the tension test, the stress given is 100 megapascal, isn't it? So let D is the diameter, D is the dia of bolt. So we have to assess this, the diameter of bolt. Right? So we know that the cross-section area of the bolt, cross-section area will be equal to pi by 4 d square. Right? So pi by 4 d square. So if you solve this, the stress sigma 1 will be equal to, in case of the axial load, it will be 10 divided by this multiplied by 4 divided by pi d square. So much kilonewton per millimeter square, because it is given in megapascal. Okay, so you can straight away use this. Okay, so if you solve this, this relation will come as 12.73 upon d square, so much kilonewton. Okay. Now this is for axial tensile stress. Axial tensile stress. Right. Now, for the transverse shear, just a minute. For transverse shear, tau will be the stress, and this will be equal to 5 is the load given divided by the area. So 4 pi d square. So this will give you 6.365. So much kilonewton per millimeter square. Right? So now the maximum stress, because this is a case of the combined loading, maximum stress, that is shear stress. So tau max, because we have to calculate the shear stress, tau max is equal to half under the root sigma 1 minus sigma 3 whole square plus 4 tau square. Right? Sigma 2 is 0. Sigma 2 is given as 0. Okay? So, here in this case, it will be, sorry, sigma 2 is equal to 0 is equal to sigma 3. So this is equal to half under the root of sigma 1 square plus 4 times. Right? So you can put this value of tau and sigma over here, which we have calculated. So if you solve it, it will come as if you solve this, it will come as 9,000 divided by d square. So much Newton per millimeter square. Okay? So according to maximum shear stress theory, tau max is equal to sigma y by 2. So that means 9,000 divided by d square is equal to, it is given 100 sigma y divided by 2. So you can calculate d from here. So this implies d is equal to 13.42. So much. So this way we assess the dimension of the component which is required to be done. Okay. So I think it is clear. Uh, yeah. Now the second theory, it is a distortion theory and also known as the von Mises theory. It is very important. So you listen to this carefully. The distortion energy theory or the von Mises theory predicts that the yieldings occurs when the distortion strain energy per unit volume reaches or exceeds the distortion strain energy per unit volume for the yield in simple tension or in compression of the same material. So total strain energy, as we know per unit volume U, is the sum of the two components. One is the distortive strain energy and another is the volumetric strain energy. So this we have studied also in first chapter. The strain energy per unit volume is the component D plus the volumetric UV. So this we have learned in our first chapter. Let me draw it again. So, or I can do it like this. This is the distortive strain energy, and this is the this is the volumetric strain energy. Okay, so that means U is a sum of this. So U, that is strain energy per unit volume, we can write by this relation. All of us are aware of this. Sigma 1 into epsilon 1, where sigma 1 is the stress and the epsilon is the strain. So we can write for a three-dimensional component. So we know also 1 upon 2e. So if we solve this by this is a relation also we have derived in the first chapter by the above relation. So UD is the distortive strain energy, that is pure angular distortion of the element. There is no volume change. So in this case we say the sigma 1, sigma 2 and epsilon 1, epsilon 2 and epsilon 3. So these are the volumetric strain. Distortive strain. Okay. Then volumetric strain energy, it is pure volume change of the, that is there is no angular distortion. So this is, for this we have assumed that the average shear stress will be this. So you see in the triaxial stress cases where sigma 1 is greater than sigma 2 is greater than sigma 3. So it is consisting of the two components. One is the distortional component and another is the hydrostatic component. Okay. So this is given sigma V and this is sigma 2 minus sigma 3 minus sigma. So this way you can calculate. So UV, that is volumetric, so it is this relation can be used. So since it is this, so you can write here in the place of this sigma, you can use this relation, and finally you will get the distortional component as this. So UD को इधर ले आए, so U minus UV is 1 by 1 plus nu upon 3e sigma 1 minus sigma 2. So it is the easiest relation to remember for the distortion strain energy. So note that the distortion energy is 0 if sigma 1 is equal to sigma 2 is equal to sigma 3. So if you put here sigma 1 is equal to sigma 2 and sigma 3, so this component will become 0. So for a simple tensile test at yield, sigma 1 is equal to Sy or sigma y and sigma 2 and sigma 3 is equal to 0 because it is a uniaction. So distortion energy in that case will be 1 plus nu upon 3e and this will be equal to the sigma 1 is equal to sigma s. So we, by putting these relation in the above relation, we will get this relation. Okay. So for general state of stress, the yield is predicted by this relation. Okay. If we had a simple case of tension sigma, then yield will occur sigma is greater or equal to Sy. Thus, the left of the above equation can be thought of a single equivalent. Okay. So you can solve this. For the effective stresses is usually called as this sigma prime or sigma dash, which is known as the von Mises stresses. And this von Mises is kept on the name of the person who has devised this theory. So sigma dash is greater or equal to Sy. So you can write here sigma dash is equal to so this relation you have seen above. So in order to represent this theory graphically, so this is an equation of the ellipse. For the plane stress, the von Mises can be represented by the principal stress sigma A, sigma B, and 0. So if you take the 2, 1, so if you apply in the previous relation, so instead of sigma 1, you write sigma A. Instead of sigma 2, you write sigma B, and sigma 3 is 0. Or sigma 3, you write sigma B, and sigma 2 is equal to 0. So you will get this relation. So this can be, you see, it is a pure shear line. This is a earlier theory which we have taken on the basis of the pure shear. And this is the envelope which we get for the distortion energy. So this dotted shows the maximum shear stress theory, and this dE, this is denoted by this. Okay. So the point which lies in these envelopes will be taken as the safe point for the stress design. Okay. So using the XYZ component of the three-dimensional stress, the von Mises stress can be written as sigma dash is equal to this. Okay. And for the plane stress, it is written as this. So considering the factor of safety, so you write the von Mises stress is equal to Sy upon Fs. So these are the important formulae which we will be using. So we can solve the second example also, or you better solve this yourself, and then we will discuss maybe in the next class. So in this case, you have to apply both the theories, that is MSS, that is maximum shear stress theory, and the distortion energy. And you calculate and compare and see what is the difference. So the simple statement of this numerical is that a hot rolled steel has a yield strength. Tension in compression, it is same. It is 100 kpsi, so kilopascal per square inch. So you can put it as 100 MPa for your yield. Otherwise, you can convert it also. And the two strain fracture is two strain at a fracture is given. So estimate the factor of safety we have to for the following principal stresses. So sigma x is given and tau x is given. So you see here, this is one combined stress, this is another combined stress, this is another combined stress. So you have to check this for the four condition. Now here, the material is ductile because epsilon is given greater than 0.3. Okay, so it is 0.55. The value is high, so it is ductile. So it is on the ductile side. So because ideal value is, I think, from 0.3 to 0.5. Anyway, you try to solve it. Otherwise, we'll solve this in the next class. Okay. So this is how you see the theory can be. This example can be, plotted by we have compared here the condition as per the MSS and the condition as per the D distortion. Okay, so I think I should stop here because I have another class. So thank you very much for your patience listening. So we will discuss the other thing in the next class. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.